Welcome back to the Full Court Press podcast, where we pick up 94 feet and talk hoops the right way. I'm Brian Joyner, joined by Ben Clark. Are you ready to put some pressure on these topics today, Ben?
Absolutely. We got a lot of good topics in line and some random topic as well, I've been told.
Yeah. I just want to start off by just like standing up and just applauding. I just want to applaud the NBA voters for getting it right and not and,
Yeah,
not making Con Knipple the rookie of the year.
absolutely.
I also want to start off with this. This is a tie-in. I cannot stand what Carmelo Anthony said on whatever show he's on, where Cooper Flag gets announced.
hmm
Then they pan over to him, and he goes, "Well, I think, Nico Harrison should get some credit for this." Yeah,
What kind of credit does he want?
I don't know what kind of credit Harrison deserves from this, but it isn't that. It isn't anything because he got some ping pong ball to bounce his way on a 1 point something percent chance.
Yeah,
And it's like, that's just absurd. It's absurd. Like, how can you even say that?
I think he thinks that he banked enough credit with the lottery gods by making the worst trade in history of basketball. And they're like, oh, well, he did this to bring Cooper this way. It must have been that. But he did nothing else.
They did nothing. I mean, even the moves he did before that were what? They're all kind of giving credit to the guy in Detroit. I forget his name. It's not Conley. It's something else. I
The
forget.
GM?
Yeah,
Weaver?
he's like an assistant GM. So he's like an
Yeah.
advisor for Detroit now.
Okay.
But for the pat like for the Nico's first couple years in
hmm
Dallas, he was Nico's advisor.
Okay.
And then they go and make all those moves and do like everybody's like, wow, he's so great. Like what awesome moves by Nico to get PJ and Gafford and whatever.
Not analytics Bob, right?
No, it's not analytics, Bob. And then you turn around and go, all right. He goes to Detroit this year or last year, and then Nico trades Luka. It's like, who was actually doing things
Yeah.
behind the scenes there? That's funny. But anyway, I just cracked up when I heard that.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting take from Carmelo. I think it makes a little bit more sense why LeBron's, you know, comments in the article today, I don't know if you read it on ESPN, but where he's
I,
like, yeah, I have no interest in basically doing whatever
oh
Carmelo and D Wade and all of them are doing now. Like they're doing a great job, but I have no interest.
yeah, and
I
then
was
is
like,
that the one? Is that the
nice.
one where he goes, yeah, I think I'm gonna hang out with my wife.
Yeah. They're like, what are you gonna do? He's like, I think I'm gonna hang out with my family because I've been MIA for the last 20 years because
Yeah,
of basketball. So I think I'm gonna not do anything basketball related, actually.
and he deserves it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
No, we have an awesome show. We're gonna do a little bit of like legacy talk. I think towards the main part of the show is gonna be more of like a legacy talk. But we'll start out with. Did you read up on the proposed lottery anti-tanking rules?
I did, yeah,
Yeah,
in part because you sent me what to read, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, I did, especially after you sent that. But it
It's a
seems
good
like
one.
it was definitely a step in the right direction from my perspective. I'd be curious your thoughts as well. I know we only touched on it briefly, but I do think Silver is trying the best he can to figure out a solution that's going to help be more of a long term solution rather than having to introduce stuff year after year to try and fix it. Uh, so, what are your thoughts initially?
Initially, I kind of am mixed about it. Yeah, I know it's like a cop out answer, but um, I like it only because there's a clause that says that I was listening to somebody talk about it that in 2029, which I think is like the year after, 2 years after this is whatever, they can revert back to whatever they can decide it was dumb or something,
Hmm.
and then they can just go back to
More words or less.
yeah, more words, yeah, for simple terms. They can just realize that they don't like it or whatever, and then they can just go back to, or they can make a new plan or something like that. Which I was like, okay, cool. Then why not do something kind of wild and outlandish to see if it gets teams to care about games at the end of the season? Because for those who haven't heard, I have it in front of me. It's called the 3-2-1 lottery proposal, and basically, it's I'll read it here just from Shams. It represents the number of lottery balls per team. It would expand the lottery from 14 to 16 teams. Teams that do not qualify for the playoffs or play-in tournament, but stay out of the relegation zone, which the relegation zone is going to be 4 through 10, would receive 3 lottery balls each.
Hmm.
And then teams that are in the relegation zone, as well as teams 11 through 14,
Hmm.
are all going to have 2 lottery balls in there. And then you have 15 and 16, which are the 2 eighth seeds in
Hmm.
both conferences, will have 1 lottery ball each in there. And along with that, you cannot have number 1 picks in consecutive years, and then you cannot have top 5 picks in 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
So the third year, you would basically only be able to be 6 through 14 or whatever.
Hmm.
And then so basically, the the new odds would be when this happens is 1 through 1. Okay, well, we'll say 1 is the worst team. So
Hmm.
1, 2, and 3 will have a 5.4% chance at the number 1 pick, and then 4 through 10 will have an 8.1% chance, and
Hmm.
then 11, 12, 13, 14 have the same odds as 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
and 5.4, and then the play-in team, the eighth seeds will have a 2.7% chance each. And just looking at that, it's like, I don't know why you would want to have these teams that, like this year, it's the Wizards who won 17 games would have the same odds as the Hornets who won 44 games.
Hmm.
And it's like,
It
that's
that's
crazy.
probably my main issue with it. I mean, in general, like I said, I do like it as an attempt to try and fix things. Uh, that's the one part that I'm like, I think they could stagger some of those percentages a little bit. Like, I think they had tried to maybe oversimplify it with the 3-2-1,
Yeah.
our balls are in your court type thing. Like, I like that you're trying to incentivize these teams that finish, very close to playoffs a little bit more in the play in too. You get eliminated in the play in, like let's give you a little bit more for trying there. But I think since they've gone so far away from just kind of the NFL style, like you're the worst team, you get the first pick. It is what it is. Like in order to, since they've already decided we're not doing that, then it's got to be little bit of creativity to kind of make it a little bit more fair than what it currently is. So I understand that method, but I also don't necessarily think the percentages are where they need to be. Like, I relegation zone, like they're just so influenced by European football, soccer. Like,
Yeah.
the in-season tournament, all that. Like, it's great, man. Just say that you love soccer. Soccer's great. We love it. But you're pulling all these ideas like relegation zone. He doesn't even know what that means.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you're
not the
not
same.
relegating anybody.
Yeah.
And also, the relegation zone is the last three. Like
Yeah, right.
basically the worst record and the two above that. So I don't know.
That's the only part of relegation zone I think he understands is that
Right.
it is the worst teams.
Right. Which I'm like, okay, man. So I get that they're trying to be creative, and I appreciate that, and I think that we're taking steps towards something that will be a little bit more successful, but it needs a little bit of tweaking and probably to not be so oversimplified. I get that they were probably trying to push something out pretty quick within this last month, which,
Yeah.
if we want to try it out next year, I don't necessarily have any issue with that, but I do think that it may be an interesting time to do that considering they're doing some expansion teams probably in the next 2 years, which, it's like, okay, you have your expansion draft and teams get shuffled around. And then all of a sudden, this
Yeah.
worst team in the league is now not getting the same type of odds as they were, or the worst three. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how that plays out. So I'd like to see them get something in place before that expansion happens, just to test it out. But that could easily be kind of changed around pretty quickly based on that expansion.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the expansion stuff. It's like, okay, cool. Are you making the you can put 18 teams in the lottery? Are you like right now?
Right.
I think we're gonna push it to 16 teams. So like, okay, like 18 teams in the lottery. I mean, that seems like a lot.
Right.
Or are you gonna or are you gonna make the playoffs bigger? So you're gonna get
exactly
10 teams in each playoff series or something.
right. And that's those are questions they're going to have to really think about
Did you?
that I don't think they're addressing.
I don't wanna go too far off here, but it's just talking about expanding the playoffs. Did you hear about the new NCAA thing?
Yeah,
It's 76 teams.
that was going to be my random topic if we had one. So I'm
My
glad you brought it up.
gosh,
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
believe that. 76 teams. Like I get it. Like March Madness is awesome, but it's awesome. Just keep it the way it is. Like it's so good.
Well, and
76.
my beef with that is, we're going to allow 8 more teams in, and if you look at least from this last year, you look at the 8 teams that were like the first four out and the next four, whatever. They're all power fours except for one, which
Yeah.
was San Diego State, which is a basketball program. They have tons of money that go to the basketball program there. I used to live near there, and obviously there's a big, rich history there. So you're not rewarding these mid majors by expanding the field. All you're doing is giving more money to the power fours to then spend more money on NIL. And
Oh,
it's not going to, like, yeah, your ratings are going to be up. You're going to get more money for the tournament.
yeah.
Everybody's going to want more games. I get it, but yeah, it's frustrating to think of. I mean, you're kind of ruining the magic of what March Madness is by creating it. It's just like the college football playoff. It's the more you expand, the less, kind of uh, richness or
Yeah.
spectacle it is, I
I mean,
guess.
so you're gonna sit there and now I gotta watch March Madness, which I love watching March Madness, but like for Thursday, I gotta watch it now. I gotta watch it what Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, oh my, like
Yeah,
I
well,
don't.
so they've said it's not impacting Thursday, Friday yet, which that made me a little bit more confident because
Okay.
all it's going to do is add more teams to kind of that first four, which is now going to be what, the early eight or the
Yeah, I
you
guess
know
so. Something like
super early 16. I don't know what it's
that.
supposed to be, but
Just make the NIL or the NIT tournament a part
well,
of the a part of the
yeah,
March
at that
Madness.
point, pretty much, yeah, it's your top 8 seeds from the NIT. It
Yeah,
just gets an invite that. So yeah, I think you know pulling it back on topic a little
yeah,
bit,
yeah,
that
we can do that.
is those types of ideas. I get that's kind of what they're trying to do with the draft lottery. Um, but I don't know. I think it takes a little bit more work than kind of the first proposal. So I guess they went through a lot of iterations, it sounds like, already, but I'd be curious to see if they have to vote to approve on that. And
Yeah, so the vote is apparently like May 28th or something like that. So they got a month to revise it and do whatever edits they want to do. And like I said, I think they're doing this just because they know in a couple of years they're going to have a chance to redo it if it
yeah,
doesn't work. So they'll get two drafts in, see if some team gets the number one pick 2 years in a row and like
hmm,
whatever. And it's like, I mean, odds of that are so obviously now really low. But
yeah.
like,
Well,
so
until this next year when the Mavs get second in a row. So
hey, that'd be
we'll see.
awesome. I'll take it. I'll take AJ DeBonsa.
Yeah, definitely. I think the more I look at it, I would definitely go Devonta at one.
For sure. I think so. I think he's just got a lot of upside, and I don't trust Peterson's want to play.
Yeah.
And Peterson's like, oh well, come out and said like, I wanna be the number one guy, and then
Hmm.
he is like quitting on Kansas team halfway through the season and stuff, and just being like, oh my back hurts. Like I'm sure he had injuries for sure, but like whatever. And then you come in, now you're gonna come to our team where you have Cooper Flag, Kyrie Irving, and it's like you're definitely not the number one guy. You're probably number three.
Yeah,
Like go
that's
go
true.
go have fun in Sacramento.
Yeah. Also, the last thing I'll say on that is I got a notification, and we may have talked about this on Sleeper, where it's like AJ DeBonsa is officially declared for the NBA draft. I'm like,
We all
why?
knew it.
Why is this a thing? Like, duh, we knew that.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it's the official declaration, but I'm like, since when did we need that to be a thing?
I don't know. The top guys, I always laugh when I get the Shams report. It's like, well,
Yeah,
Shams must be like, I don't care. What? Give it to somebody else, anybody else. Give it to Chris Haynes. I need something to do. But kind of moving along and what we're going to talk about, we can go into a little playoff kind of overview, kind of what you're thinking. Any team standing out to you, kind of any series that you're kind of hooked on. Anything kind of stand out to you, just like as a I don't know what you want to call this, like overview. We'll just call it that.
yeah, or a check-in update,
Yeah,
how
check in.
things
That's
are
good.
going.
Yeah,
Some of them are going longer than I thought they would, honestly.
me too. Yeah,
I mean, I think, obviously Philly saved their season a little bit last night, and
yeah,
Orlando's been putting it to Detroit on the defensive end, which, we kind of talked about that with Mosley being a defensive coach and how I guess if they're just going to play as amazing as they have defensively, it doesn't matter how bad your offense
yeah,
is.
for
So
sure.
they've figured that out for now. I'm not ruling Detroit out yet, but definitely has gone. It's probably going to go Sixers. It's definitely going. Well, it's not definitely going six, but I think it's going at
Could be
least
could
six
be
or
done
seven.
tonight.
Could
Yeah,
be. I mean, yeah, that would be probably the biggest upset since the '07 Mavs, I would venture.
I think it could be a
I know it's happened two other times since then, but I don't
yeah.
know if those were as big of upsets as this one might be.
Yeah, I think at the time, obviously, that was really crazy upset with the Mavs and stuff. But if you go back and look at it and the coach they had, and we've talked about it on this podcast with the circumstance behind that the whole thing, I think this would be a way bigger upset than that one
Yeah,
was.
I think so too. So those ones have been a little bit surprising just for the length of them. Obviously, I mean, the Lakers being up 3-1,
Didn't see that one coming.
we had Rockets in 4 or 5, and
Yeah,
but as did the rest of the world pretty much. So not not surprising having watched some of those games to see how the Lakers are doing it. And we highlighted that last week, so we don't have to reiterate that as much. But I do think, if the Lakers can close it out tonight, that's got to be also one of the most surprising results this first round.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, technically,
Minnesota being up 3-2 without two of their starters. It's
I don't think they make it,
I don't either. I think Denver's still got it.
which is a
Obviously a
bummer.
big loss.
I mean, I was really high on. I mean, not high on. I thought the Nuggets were going to win, and then obviously when with Anthony Edwards and DiVincenzo, I was like, it's over. Like I think the Nuggets are going to get run out of the gym here, and then now both of them are going to. I mean, DiVincenzo's out for all of next year, and then Anthony Edwards is probably not coming back till mid next series if they make it, and so I just don't think they have the offensive power to combat what Denver can do.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're playing the worst defensive team in the league, apparently. So they've
They're
got
horrible.
that going for 'em.
They're horrible. They just cannot protect the rim to save their lives. Like I mean, we know Jokic isn't a rim protector, but and neither is Valanciunas. So it's the weakness that Denver has, and Minnesota's eating it up.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm curious to see how that one finishes up. I do think Denver will probably win in seven now. Otherwise, not a lot has stood out to me. I think the Knicks showed last game kind of what we highlighted with their star power. Like if they get performances like that out of Brunson and then Towns
Town.
before that, like it's going to be hard for the Hawks to overcome that. Just even if they are on, which they were not last game, but
You can't have for the Hawks. You cannot go a game without having a single player score 20 points. And they had Jalen Johnson who scored 18, and it's like, ooh, you definitely need to score 20 to 25 probably
yeah,
tonight. But I've been really impressed with Cat.
hmm
I kind of gave him some flack when we did our preview before everything started, and he has been awesome. It's 20 points, 11 rebounds, 47% from three, 60 from the field,
hmm
60% of the field. Oof, that is
yeah.
pretty good.
No, he's having a great series, which obviously rightfully so to question him before just based on the track record, but this is what he should be doing as one of their best players, and especially playing against a Hawks team that, I mean, it's not like Okong was that great of a defender. He's not bad, but he's not particularly good. And who else do they have that's going to guard Towns? Nobody. So
No,
I just, this is what he should be doing. And I think, like you said, I think the Hawks actually need two 20-point scorers per game to really have a chance.
Yeah. You would hope that like you can get 20 points from McCollum one game, and then you get Nikhil Alexander score 20 points, and then
Yeah,
those are. I mean, I think those are really, and then maybe Kaminga gets 20 points one game. So I think it's like a Jalen Johnson needs to be there, and then you
he
get 20
does.
points from somebody else,
Right.
around the floor.
Which is what we've seen in their wins this series. Jalen's been consistent, and we got stand-up games from CJ, one from Kaminga, and I mean, Nikhil Alexander Walker has not shown up at all to me in this series, and I think especially winning, most improved player this year, like you've got to have performances. He needs to be like what CJ has been doing for them in this
For
series,
sure.
and thankfully they've had a couple guys step up to where they've gotten the 2 wins. But I think it'll could be over next game if they don't have more offense show up, and they've just got to play better defense. They played pretty solid defense the first couple games, but it's kind of fallen off the last two. So
It's hard to combat Jalen Brunson. I mean, he's so good that like you can hold him in check a couple games, and like he's gonna figure it out. And I have been really I was impressed with Dyson Daniels and Nikhil Alexander Walker the first couple
hmm
games, but they couldn't get the job done last game, obviously.
yeah,
So
no.
I mean, you
So
you let him get 40 and it's over. Like no chance to stop
yeah,
that.
no. I think if Brunson's your leading scorer, and with the performance Towns gave too, like that's you're not going to win many games with that. And they should still run into Boston next round. I think Boston will still shut out Philly. If not next game, in Game 7, it's going to be hard to win in Boston. So
Yeah, it is going to be really hard. Now, if they're getting games like they got from Embiid every game, which I don't see happening because he's like 2 weeks off an appendicitis, and so like he's barely walking up and down the floor. So I don't see him doing that game after game, but he looked good.
he did look good second half,
Yeah.
especially. I mean, they went from outside in, and
Yeah,
I mean there's nobody that can stop him in the paint
for
on
sure.
the definitely on the Celtics. If not,
Anybody.
in the league, it's going to be tough to stop him in the paint. So if he can do that 2 more games, then yeah, they certainly have a chance. Boston's not going to miss 14 shots in a row
No.
in any other game probably the rest of the year. But uh, yeah, I do think it's still going to be really tough for Philly to put themselves in that spot again to win the game. But
Yeah, the only other series I mean, we can talk about the Spurs and the Thunder. They moved on, so
yeah,
no need to
they
really.
looked exactly how we thought they would.
Yeah. So when Wimby came back, I was like, it's done. Nobody can stop him, and then he opens everything up for everybody else, and so it's just those teams I think are on a crash course to meet in the Western Conference Finals, and that'll be one heck of a series. I'm gonna be excited for that one. Now I don't know. Austin Reeves and Luca come back to play the Thunder. Who knows? Luca's the Thunder kryptonite. So
I mean, he is. I'm not altogether optimistic. It could be a pretty quick series for sure. But that being said, the Lakers have shown up quite a bit more than we thought that they would already. So it's not out of the question for LeBron or Luca to steal a game each,
if
on
they
their own.
if Marcus Smart keeps playing the way he's playing, I I I would say they're gonna push 6-7 maybe because like there you go, but because he's been playing amazing. Per 36, he's averaging like 4 steals a game, which I'm not a huge fan of per 36 numbers, but that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Oh no, he's played great for sure. My only thing is, I mean, the Rockets point guard situation.
Yeah, they're
If
horrible.
you're going up against Reed Shepard, you're probably going to get 3 steals just because he's going to hand you the ball. It's not
Yeah,
so much you're a great defender, but he's certainly played lights out. But when you're going against Aaron Holiday and Reed Shepard, and I mean even Amen is a little bit careless with the ball at times. So
and KD. I mean, KD's a good ball handler, but you get Marcus Smart, who's 6'3", 6'4". He gets right up underneath you. Like it's hard. You can't. It's hard to
who's
dribble
KD?
against.
Is he
Oh,
on the
he's
team?
no, maybe not. Well, we're gonna get into that a little later. The
Yeah,
only other series I think we could touch on real fast is I have been really impressed with the Raptors. I think
yeah.
RJ
Thank
Barrett's
you.
played good. Man, the Scotty Barnes. I'm gonna talk about him. He's one of my like risers as far as like
hmm
legacy wise in this series. I'm really impressed with how they're
What
battling.
What do you think they changed, or maybe they didn't change much, going from the first 2 losses to the 2 wins? What did you notice when you were watching?
I think it's just that they are able to. They're kind of doing this thing where they're testing Mobley. It seems like they're like seeing if Mobley is going to be able to carry an offense
Hmm.
because they're just devoting everything to Donovan Mitchell and Harden, trying to slow
Hmm.
them down as much as they can, and stopping the pick and roll with Allen. I mean, Allen's averaging 8 points a game. I was like,
Hmm.
I mean, I thought he would be a huge factor in this, but in Mobley, he's only averaging 18. So
Yeah, he's had some pretty bad games the last two.
yeah, he's just not showing up. Um, and then they're getting shooting. I mean, their shooting's been really good the games they've won. So
Hmm.
with R.J. Barrett and you get Scotty Barnes hitting like 2 or 3 a game now or something like that, which just didn't happen really in the season. So I think that's kind of where they've kind of capitalized on their wins. In their losses,
Hmm.
bad shooting and and Harden goes or Donovan Mitchell goes crazy or something like that. So
Yeah, and I think that was kind of, in some sense, like hinting at this is the matchup they wanted, was Cleveland over New York. Not that it was a good matchup either way, but I think because they have a lot of speed, a lot of youth, and they can kind of, like, in these wins, we've seen why that they match up well. Obviously, they are still prone to getting beat by the star power of the Cavs, which was going to happen either way with New York or Cleveland. But I think they have a little bit more of a chance to kind of pick apart, I think, Cleveland's defense with having Mobley and Allen in there rather than just having Towns and a couple other guys like OG and Hart that match up a little bit better with some of the Raptors players, I would say.
yeah,
Um, so I am curious. I do think Cleveland probably puts it on them tonight. If they're going to win the series, I think they got to show up tonight, and I could see it being a bit of a, not a blowout, but maybe 10, 15 point win tonight.
yeah, for sure. I also think there's something to say about. I was listening to Locked On NBA today, and they made this point, and it's kind of interesting that the Raptors are in a spot with their roster
Hmm.
where the coach can basically just like whoever the best matchup is, and whoever is just playing well. It's like you're gonna get minutes, and the other guy, whoever's not, sit on the bench, and like they're okay, they seem okay with it. If you look at the Cavs, it's like you have to play Harden, Mitchell, Mobley, Allen, and then Struess and Merrill.
Hmm.
And those, I mean, that's 7 guys right there that you really have to play because they're your team, and like there's no like real substitutes for their production. So it's like for example, the Raptors are like Jakob Poeltl, you're not playing well. Sit on the bench. We'll put
Hmm.
Conor Boyles in, and he's a different attack, and he's
Hmm.
been playing really well. And so it's like that's where the team construction is different between those two.
Yeah, I agree, and that's one of the downsides with having such a ball dominant kind of star in Harden and even Mitchell to an extent, where you kind of need those guys to run your offense for you, and maybe you're not able to have the flexibility to have, a backup or a guy that, I mean, they're relying on Dennis Schroeder, and I haven't seen much of Keon Ellis either, so it's kind of Schroeder and a little bit of Merrill, a little bit of Struess here and there, just not as much depth as what you're referencing with, they've got Mamu, they've got Murray Boyles, they've got Walter coming off, and even who's the other guy that's been getting some playing time? Uh, forget, I think he's number 8, but kind of with the short dreads.
Yeah.
Um, he's been getting a look
No,
too, and I'm like, it's not Battle, but it's someone else
my
that I'm drawing a blank on.
my Raptors team knowledge is not probably what it should be.
But and obviously Shed is playing quite a bit too, without quickly being a huge factor. But yeah, I think that's a good point. They're relying a little bit more on who's playing well, and that's carried them the last 2 wins.
Right. I was trying to look up the
So
roster real fast to see if I could find it. Trying to see.
I should know it,
Is
but
it? It's not Mogbo, is it?
no, it's not Mugbo. He hasn't
Jamal
really
Shed?
played as, no, not Shed. He might be a forward rather than a guard.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know any of these other guys. like
He's kind of younger.
maybe it's like they got Hepburn and then
No,
Martin and then Jacoby Walter, but you mentioned him, so anyway,
yeah.
it's not
Anyways,
relevant. But
yeah,
um,
definitely putting a little bit more fight into Cleveland than we thought initially. But we'll see how that one wraps up. I think Cleveland will still get it done and move on to hopefully play Detroit. I'd love to see that series, but man, if Orlando gets past them, like, are they
Yeah,
for real into the next round, or is it
I
an
think.
easy sweep the next team that plays them?
Nah, I don't think it's an easy sweep. I don't trust them that much. Like, I'm with a lot of people that are like, uh, they've been bad this whole season, shooting
Hmm.
and stuff like that. The thing about the thing about the Pistons is like they're turning the ball over a lot. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, cool, that's great. Their defense, Jalen Suggs does that. Sorry, I mean not sorry, Thompson. He's on the Pistons, but um, like the Magic are built to be a defense first, and so they're gonna do that. But I think the big factor is they've just taken Jalen Duren completely out of the series. Like he is
Hmm.
not playing well at all. This is a 2010 guy averaging like now he's averaging I think he's like 12 for the series or something like that. Like
Hmm.
something horrible. And it's
Yeah.
like the fact that they've said basically, Cade, we want you to kick the shooters, not drive and have an easy dunk from Duran has just like disrupted everything that they do. It's almost like they
Hmm.
don't know what to do now. It's like they don't have any other options. Like you can kick out, and Duncan Robinson's not shooting well, and Tobias Harris is not shooting well, and these guys that they've. Sarr Thompson is just not a shooter. So in any facet, so it's like they're just saying, Cade, you score 40 and that's cool, and everybody else we're gonna keep to under 12 and you won't win.
Right. And unfortunately, Cade's not shooting particularly well either
No.
because he's been turning the ball over a lot and not getting great looks. So it's definitely they put him kind of in a spot to where they're not playing the game they've been comfortable playing this year, getting 60 plus wins. And I do think Duran is the main reason why. They've got to get him going a little bit more than they have. And I mean, Orlando really shouldn't have a defender that's able to match up with him in the
Man,
ways that they have.
yeah.
Their defense has been unreal. I mean, to shoot, I think they shot 39% last game and
Yeah.
like low 20s from three, and they won, scoring 94 points. You should not be winning games 94 to 89 or 90 or whatever it was. Like that's like 90s 2000s basketball, not now.
Four. Yeah, 100%. But Wendell Carter's been so good
Yeah, I mean
for the Magic.
defensively
Yeah.
he's definitely stepped up a lot more than I like you said. I thought Duran would be 20 and 10 comfortably in this series, especially considering his season, but he has not looked good.
The Magic do have a lot of big bodies. They got, Wagner and they have Bataze and then Carter, Wendell Carter, and it's like, these guys they have depth to keep throwing, like just keep being
Yeah,
physical with him, and if you get fouls, like cool, we'll just put this other guy in, 18 fouls total, like like we'll just use them up.
yeah,
But they're not fouling, which is like kind of crazy too. They're not having to foul, so
yeah.
it's
No,
interesting.
Mosley's put him in a good spot defensively to
Yeah,
to really, I mean, not only be leading the series, but essentially dominating the series so far. Outside of that one, you know, what was it, like a 25-0 run essentially from the Pistons? Like they've been minus 25 for the series essentially. So
yeah. I mean, the
they've not
Pistons.
looked great.
The last game, they went the last 5.5 minutes, didn't score a single field goal. Well, they got one like in garbage time from like Stewart on a tip in, but like 5.5 minutes in crunch time, you're down by I think you were down by two or something like that. Like you couldn't score a single basket.
Yeah,
That's horrible.
yeah. Just pulled a big Boston on them.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So that kind of transitions into the main kind of topic today. We're gonna do a playoff series with players that could positively have impact their careers or legacy positively and negatively. We can start positive, I guess, and then go to negative after that. But I had a few names on the positive side of things. Like
Hmm.
it just depends on how series go. But I'm taking it off of like right now, how the
Yeah,
series are going right now.
absolutely.
I think Wimby's legacy is looking really good with the numbers he's putting up with 28 minutes a game. It's kind of
Hmm.
insane. And then Shea, if Shea can keep this up all the way through and to win the finals or whatever, then like he'll cement that like he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, pushing maybe best player right now. So like it's kind of like those are the two guys that like right off the top I was like easy. Those guys are awesome.
Definitely. I mean, Shea, I mean, he's already got an MVP, right? And then won championship, so he's in the Hall of Fame already.
Probably,
Just by
basically. Yeah, he could just retire tomorrow and be in the Hall of
yeah.
Fame.
No, I'm glad you brought that up though, because I think if you're winning two championships in a row, not only in a row, but two championships in general is great company. He would probably be Finals MVP if that happened. I would assume.
Unless like Chet or Jay Will does something crazy.
Sure, but either way, they're going to need him to be a top producer in that final series. So, assuming that happens, that I think, like you said, that elevates him from top five player in the game to probably the top player in the game.
It's hard to push
Very,
Wimby though, but like
it is. But if you say beat him in a series, you've won two championships in a row, two Finals MVPs in a row, potentially two MVPs in a row. I would have to put him as the top player in the game, even though I may not necessarily agree. I do think that just out of respect for what he's accomplished in that time span, I would have to put him as the top player in the league. Which, if we think about the last 2 decades, there's been such a small handful of players that you can say have been the best player in the league for, more than 1 year period of time. It's kind of been LeBron, KD, Steph, maybe Giannis and Jokic the last couple, and maybe Harden, Westbrook in there a little bit, but
yeah,
that's
maybe.
kind of it.
Maybe Steph. Did you say Steph? Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. Were there any other players you had on your list, kind of that positively are gonna have positive impact on their legacy?
Definitely. I think Cade was first for me. I think to go, Cade's obviously ascended this year to from kind of star to superstar. All NBA first team, I would venture to say, and I think deservedly so. And if he's able to take that step and win this championship, I think that kind of cements him as an elite player in the game, a top five player in the game currently, which we see that year in and year out from other stars, kind of the last 5 to 10 years, kind of elevating their game, going on a run. I think Wimby is, like you already mentioned, in that same progression of, okay, hits his first playoff series win, assuming he continues the run that he's on the rest of the playoffs, however long they last. It's building that legacy now. You've got all the hype behind you. You've got the history of being the number one pick and all that. I think those are two players that certainly will benefit from that first championship, just like Shea did last year to some degree, kind of in that same vein. Um, so I think Cade has a lot to gain from that. More positively too, I think Jokic / Jamal Murray. I think they kind of need that to continue their. Murray would be a little different than Jokic, but Jokic needs that to kind of, I guess, re-cement himself as the best player in the game. I think he's been that best player, just kind of, the last couple of years have kind of been this under the radar kind of voter fatigue. Like, oh yeah, it's just what he does. It's not as in your face as a lot of the Wemby highlights and, Shea or Cade, the kind of the recognition they're getting, even though he's just been, insane this year as well.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of is something for him to fall back on and say, like, yeah, I mean, we won that 1 year and that was great, and we've had decent runs other years, but I've been here for the last 5 to 10 years, just putting up numbers, and
Yeah.
I think that would kind of go a long way for his legacy too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Jokic is not that I think he cares, but his legacy is pushing to be like the one of the best European players ever, maybe one of the best centers ever. But like, I think that my thing is that players like him, it's like he's not going to be looked on like, oh well, he won 7 championships. Like it's the things that he does and how he controls the game that make him like considered the best ever and best in the game and stuff like that. So I kind of had him on my like question mark. I had a few question mark guys on like if Denver goes and let's say they lose this series or let's say that whatever, like what does that do to his legacy? I don't know that it does much for what he does.
Hmm.
I think it has more of an impact on Murray's legacy, maybe. But even then, like Murray is a secondary guy. He's always been a secondary guy, so I don't know how much pressure is really on him. A few more guys on my positive list. Scotty Barnes is on there,
Hmm.
and then I had LeBron as far as like being able to carry this Lakers team past a series that he should not have been. They should not have been in, really.
Yeah.
And it kind of they did a comparison between KD and LeBron, and it's like
Hmm.
I know that KD's not hasn't only played one game this series, but it just kind of they were like neck and neck for like 1 and 2 player in the league, maybe with like Steph too, and
Hmm.
then you had it just showed why LeBron was better than him, and the why LeBron his playmaking and his total impact on the game just supersedes KD by so much. It's like even in
Yeah.
their late stage of their careers, the same way.
Yeah. I've kind of got LeBron on my question mark list, so we can revisit that in a
Yeah.
second. But
Okay.
I mean, he brought back the was it 2018 Toronto Raptors series when
Oh.
he hit that runaway, like
Yeah.
running fadeaway bank type
Yeah.
shot. Just nasty. Like
It's good.
he should not be doing this stuff at 41, man. That's not fair. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm on board with Barnes. I think the the last people I would mention probably is the next kind of trio of or stars, Brunson, Towns. I think they've yet to really submit their legacy, much more than just being, star players in today's era. But I think not only a championship for them for their resumes, but I think for the Knicks as a whole, like that's something that, considering their history, having such a rich history without having a championship is, I think that's something that would mean so much to their city that they would instantly become, legends to that city. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest collective impact, maybe from a team standpoint, that could happen with a championship.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that unfortunately for I mean LeBron he went to the Heat and whatever, but like if you play for teams like the Lakers and the Knicks, it's like your legacy is attached to how many rings you can get for that franchise, rather than like if you play for like Giannis in the Bucks,
Hmm.
or Dirk in the Mavs. That's a good one. And it's like if Dirk never won a champion, I mean because he won a championship in 2011, it just like stamped him as like awesome.
Yeah,
But like if he never won, he would still be looked on as one of the greatest players of all time, just because he is such a huge impact on just the Dallas Mavs, and the 20 years that he kept them in contention every single year.
yeah,
It just matters more for those smaller market teams that you're in contention and you're putting up numbers. It's the same with Jokic in Denver.
hmm,
It's like they're kind of that team as well. It's like, yeah, but if you play for the Heat, the I guess I don't know if the Heat are really in this conversation because they just kind of just recent like I think what 2006 was their first championship ever. So like
hmm,
I don't know if they're in that. Anyway, they seem to want championships, and that's it. But the Knicks and the Lakers and the Celtics are kind of the big ones where it's like if you play for them, it's about rings.
yeah. No, I agree, and I think to your point too, like I grew up in Southern California, and the Lakers, like just that whole pressure and kind of the pressure cooker environment it is, like people were still very anti Dirk up until he won the championship. Obviously, diehard Lakers fans, so it's a little bit of a different perspective, but it was pretty much like me. I'm sitting there saying, Dirk is the greatest European player. He's fantastic, and everybody's like, yeah, I mean, he's good, but he hasn't won anything. So
Yeah.
why does it matter? And I'm like, well, it's now living in Dallas, it's completely different. Dirk is an idol here. Like everybody loves Dirk, and the city worships him for that championship, but also just for, like you said, the impact he has had on the city. So the championship was just kind of the icing on the cake. To them, it was validation. And so I see, Giannis and Dirk as that championship validates them, and that's really all they need. They need that one.
Yeah.
Whereas now you've got a different debate, which we can get into kind of our questionable ones. Like to me, LeBron is a question mark, not because he needs the championship for his legacy as much as the circumstances of this one would particularly be, you know, something we haven't seen. Somebody this old carrying a team. Obviously,
Yeah.
you probably get some reinforcements here shortly, but with your son on the team, you're.
Yeah.
I was sitting there with my fiance, like, this guy's dropping dimes to his son. Like,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine my dad throwing me an alley oop or something. Like,
In
we
the
never did
NBA.
that just in pickup,
Yeah.
but like in the most professional setting you can be in, this
It's
guy's
crazy.
throwing lobs to his kid.
And if he
Like,
plays
that's,
next year, he may have his other son in the league.
yeah, I'm like, it just, we haven't seen this level of, not dominance, because he's not dominant anymore, but he's certainly an impact player. And this series, he's pretty much put them on their back and said, "All right, we're taking the series. We'll see how they finish up tonight." But it's been pretty incredible to watch. So I think from that lens, to me, it's like it's not going to define him. Like even in the interviews we were reading today, it's like he doesn't need it to really compare himself because he's not comparing himself to Jordan head to head based on championships. And most people are kind of getting to that point to where, I think if you're serious about basketball, you realize it's really not about the 4 or the 6 championships that they've won. It's about what they mean to the game, and they're different in their strengths. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I think for LeBron, if he wins it this year or whatever, um, first of all, it'll his championship with the Lakers was in the bubble, so it's
mhm.
kind of like an asterisk kind of season. It still obviously counts and it's a huge deal, and he won it, but he needs it to get closer to his record being better in the finals. It's like right now he's
four,
four
four
and
and six.
six or something like that. Four wins, 6 losses, right? And so it's like you need he needs to get closer to that if he wants like to be considered, because that's his big knock is like, oh, look at his finals, he went whatever 8 years in a row or something like that, and it only came out whatever, or maybe more than that. But anyway, the point is that he needs it to get that record a little closer.
Yeah, I think if people are looking at it from that lens, like they're still hanging on it. Well, Jordan won 6 out of 6. Like there's no blemish, this or that, and rather not make the finals so you don't lose. And LeBron even was saying today, it's like, no, I don't think you realize how hard it is to go to the finals 8 years in a row. Like
Yeah,
that will probably never ever happen again.
it's insane. I mean, you think about it, like that is an insane run.
Yeah. Well, no, you're playing literally from, probably August or September, whenever they start, off season stuff, until June
Yeah.
every year for 8 years in a row. And probably what, 10 out of 12 years or something like that at that point, to
No,
where
for
that's just
sure.
a huge toll on your body. So I get it. I also understand, you want to win those big games, and that's a huge mark against him. But I mean, some of the teams that he was pulling to these finals, like you got J.R. Smith starting games for you, Kyle Korver, and no Kyrie certain series, and no Kevin Love others, and it's just it's hard to knock him too much for those, in my opinion. But I certainly understand what you're saying there.
Yeah, for sure. A couple other we'll go. Okay, we're doing question marks. A couple of question mark guys are like Devin Booker getting
Hmm.
ousted and swept in the first round. I don't know that his legacy is going to be anything different than it is, unless he like leads a team being the number one guy to a championship. But at this point, I think he's committed to Phoenix for his entire 45-year career because he's still only 28 or something.
Yeah,
So
I
it's,
know.
I think that he's I think that his legacy is just, it is what it is. He keeps them to be a contender. That's cool. Phoenix is another one of those teams that like as long as you keep them in contention, then like they're happy with that. So another guys are like Sengun, because I wonder if they get beat tonight and they go home, it's like, will the Rockets look at it like, well, we can't build around this guy, and will he become a Sabonis? Where it's like you can't build around him, try to get rid of him, nobody wants him. So it's like, does he just get bounced around? Does he just keep getting paid because you hope that maybe you can figure something out with him? Like, I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know what his legacy looks like after this.
Yeah, I've thought that internally myself. I do think he's a little bit better than Sabonis as a player, so I wouldn't probably have the same level of fear of that. But at the same time, he's not the best 3-point shooter, so he'd have to develop that. It's hard with their other pieces, I think, to really like Amen Thompson is your other star, so to speak, and he can't shoot either. So it's just not a great fit unless they have, either a traditional point guard or other shooters around them that, unfortunately, with Durant being out, they kind of are lacking in that, which we've seen. So I do think that they can win with Şengün. They just have to have other pieces around them, which is going to be difficult for them in the next couple of years, I think, to figure that out. But uh, and then Booker too. I mean, I think his legacy is similar to like a Dirk pre-championship.
Yeah.
Not quite at that level because he hasn't accomplished quite as much and isn't as prolific of a scorer necessarily. But I think what he means to that franchise is his legacy, and
Yeah.
so to survive all the different regimes of he's had 4 different coaches in 4 years and their whole front office debacle with bringing in Ishbia and all that. So I think that in itself is a testament to who he is. And even, I think you saw, was it Clay had an interview about talking about, I don't know if you saw that this week.
No. Heard
Just
Clay and
talking to
some other
Clay
news,
about,
but
yeah, that's true. Talk about legacy there.
yeah.
Clay was essentially, when he taunted him with like the 4 rings and
Yeah.
whatnot, he was saying he regrets it now because he sees what kind of Booker's been through and how just
Yeah.
the fact that he stuck it out and like he's a great player, all this stuff. So I think Clay's kind of reminiscent on some of the stuff he's been through. But I agree with him. Like, yeah, Booker hasn't won anything and he's not, carrying his team to playoff series wins and this and that. But I think his legacy is that he's contributed to the franchise in ways that nobody else really has.
Maybe Charles.
Yeah, maybe Charles. I think that's fair, and I guess Nash and Stoudemire potentially. But
Yeah.
he's kind of revived them from
Yeah.
where they were at that time to some levels. We'll see. He definitely needs to win more in order to have a richer legacy. But
He has an eerily similar career path that Dirk was going on. So that's a good comparison because like Dirk gets to the finals midway through his career, the kind of on the earlier stage, I guess. Um, Booker does the same thing. They both get beat pretty. I mean, we'll say pretty easily.
both up 2-0, lost 4-2.
Right, and then you just kind of fight and struggle and team building and all that stuff goes crazy. And the unfortunate thing for Booker is that Dirk was able to like consistently be like fighting these teams. Like everybody was like, I do not want to play Dirk like in the Mavs in the series because I know like Dirk is gonna keep them in it the whole time. Where I don't see Booker doing that, obviously, But OKC is not a very good example because they're so good. But it's just like one of those things. That's very cool. Like as a Mavs fan, I didn't like Booker when they were playing Dallas every year because he just kind of like I don't know his antics were a little childish, but now that he's on his own kind of and he's kind of maturing maybe or something like that, I kind of see myself being like I hope this guy kind of wins something at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly respect him for sticking it out through what he's been through, but wouldn't say I'm a fan necessarily. I just, I can appreciate it. But yeah, definitely a question mark there for me. What about some of the either negative, like who are people that have a lot to lose, or from a more negative perspective?
So I have 3 on here. 2 for sure is Harden and KD. Those 2 are like definitely if they don't get their stuff together, which KD's not at this point. He's not even gonna play tonight.
Yeah,
it's like that. What is his legacy? Is his legacy just that he fought and scrapped and climbed all the way to get OKC to the finals to lose to LeBron and then jump ship to an already dominant Warriors team? And so then you win 2 there and then on the backs of Steph and Draymond and Clay. And he was great. Like I'm not gonna say he wasn't great, but like he then goes to Brooklyn, I think, after that. And it's like y'all couldn't get anything there. And then you move on to Phoenix and you had this super team and you couldn't do jack there. And then and then you're like, oh well, he's the missing piece on this, up and coming young Houston Rockets team. and you crap out in the playoffs. And it's like, at what point are we going to be like, this guy? If he doesn't go and jump on the backs of Steph and them, like, does he end up with no rings and like, just his legacy is like, okay, cool, you're a cool scorer, cool. You average 28 points a game. Like, who? There's a bunch of players in the 90s and throughout history. Like, where does he compare? I'd say this. Where does he compare with like Allen Iverson
Mm-hmm.
and Carmelo? Like, are you even putting him in top 15 in history of the NBA?
I mean, it certainly dampens his legacy if he doesn't have the championships. At least from just watching people play. Like I watched Carmelo play a lot growing up. I watched Iverson a little bit, kind of on the tail end. So maybe not in his prime scoring years, 2000, 2002, and in that range, maybe to 04. I mean, Kevin Durant is easily one of the best scorers of the basketball I've watched. Pure scoring that, I think that in itself doesn't cement a legacy, but I do think that is, something that we can't just take for granted in today's day and age. Like LeBron is, to me, he's not a like scorer in my mind. And he even himself will say, I'm always looking to pass first. I'm not looking to score. But Durant is probably the most similar to like a Jordan Kobe model of I'm looking to score first and I will score
Yeah,
the basketball right now and I'm going to take as many shots as I want to in order to get to that point. So
yeah,
it's tough because yeah, without those championships, it's not a lot to hang your hat on. I mean, I think it would have meant so much more if he stayed with the Thunder the next
yeah.
year and ran it back and beat the Warriors and then won a championship there. Obviously it didn't play out that way, but that's kind of what the arc I saw for him was gonna be. Like that was the story. And then it felt very much so like I'm gonna take the easy road and because I want these championships, and then everybody's kind of saying like, well, this doesn't really count.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what do you mean? I just won and I dominate. And yeah, he was absolutely dominant in those two final series.
But
Absolutely dominant.
but what player of KD's level wouldn't be dominant next to Clay, Steph, and Draymond?
Right.
And then they
Yeah.
had like I don't know. I guess they didn't have Bogut then. Maybe they had
No, I
him for the
mean,
first one. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter.
no, they had him in 15 and 16, I think, but 17, 18 is when Durant was there. And,
Yeah,
uh, obviously they played, the 18 team was pretty
they were
good. I mean,
good. I mean, they
obviously
were
the
really good.
17 team had the better record, but the 18 team in the playoffs, like they still
Yeah,
hold the record for 16-1. They only lost game 5 of the finals. That was their only loss all series. And
yeah.
uh, I mean, but again, you basically knock out Kawhi in that series. Who knows how
Basically,
that would have gone?
Zaza.
And yeah, Zaza, thanks. It's his legacy right there. uh, and then you're playing against LeBron and nobody else in the finals. Like they didn't have Kyrie that year, I don't think. So it was pretty tough to just obviously the whole game one debacle with George Hill and J.R. Smith. But
Yeah.
aside from that, the Warriors just absolutely dominated. So it's hard to not. You have to separate. Like Durant was absolutely dominant in those series, but beyond that, like what else does he have? Not a whole lot.
MVPs, I guess, but I think he won his MVP with the Thunder,
Yeah,
so
and that
that's
was it.
cool. And then I'm kind of with you. I'm like, man, that'd be really nice if he could have just kept fighting and clawing and scratching like all the way. I mean, that could have been like you talked about him Jordan esque and like Kobe esque is like you
Hmm.
just stay with this team and you keep fighting and clawing and scratching. And that roster was so good. I mean,
Yeah.
I know they lost Harden, and like that's okay. He was gonna probably leave no matter what. He was so good, and
Hmm.
he's not gonna be a six man his whole career. But that Russ KD combo was awesome, and then Serge and all these other guys that they had around
Hmm.
them. They were just a few. I mean, they were just like a couple shooting pieces away from really like if they don't have to play Andre Robertson 35 minutes a game. I mean, I think they
Yeah,
have obviously a way better chance.
absolutely. And if you don't run into, Dirk's absolute
Yeah,
legendary run, and then the
right.
next year, running into LeBron and them in the finals, like
And then
with
you run into Steph and
shoeless.
Clay and
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's just the talent of that they're going up against is hard to overcome. But yeah, I mean, you think about Giannis and Dirk and these teams that have won the championship for the smaller market. Like OKC is the smallest of small, and a homegrown talent comes in, and I mean, yeah, you draft Westbrook, you draft Harden, like these are guys that are in the top. They're going to be in the top 10, I think, uh, in scoring, or at least Harden and Durant will be, and Westbrook's triple double leader, all that. So that would have been so much more meaningful to his legacy, I think. And I think he knew that as soon as he won those championships, based on the reaction that people were responding with. It's like, but I won these. We're like, yeah, but like you should have won here,
Yeah.
and that would have meant a lot more. So I feel for him a little bit because I do think he's a great scorer, and he's going to be finished probably top 5 in points all time, and that's an achievement in itself. But I think just the way he approaches the game is different to a kind of legendary, person, I guess. He's
Yeah.
very, we've talked about that before, just kind of reserved and standoffish a little bit, and that's just kind of how
Yeah.
he is. And I can respect him for who he is, but
And that's where I think that his mentality is a little different than the guys that would fight and claw and stuff like that. He's like, hey, I got my championships. I'm making as much money as I can until my career's over. And if I win another one, cool. But like, I don't think he wants to put a team on it. He already said that, and like we talked about it last week.
hmm
He already said during the middle of the season that if he's the one that has to score 25 to 30 points a game to win, then he's on the wrong team. It's like,
yeah,
well, that's what you were brought here to do, and you
it's
have
kind
been
of
that
your
way your
legacy.
whole career. Yeah, right. And you don't want to do that. It's like, okay, cool. Go join some who knows what and have fun. But this Rockets team needs to probably dump him.
Yeah, he's just been a tough fit the places he's gone the last, Brooklyn, Phoenix here. It's been tough you really have to have the right pieces. And obviously, how could the Warriors not have the right pieces? Like
Well,
anybody could have been plugged in and those are the right pieces. But
well, that's the thing too, is that you went to the reason why it worked when he went to Golden State is because they already had the pieces in place, and so
hmm
they drafted everybody. I mean, basically, they drafted Clay, Steph, Draymond. Those three guys they homegrown grew all the way, and they win a championship and whatever by themselves, and then they get KD, and so that makes it awesome. But like then he goes to Brooklyn, and they have to bring Kyrie and
hmm
bring Harden, all of them on max deals. You can't
hmm
roster build around that. And then he
Yeah.
goes, you know what? I'm gonna go to Phoenix, and then you have Devin Booker making $70 million a year, and then you bring in $55 million Bradley Beal, and then KD's obviously making whatever he was making at the time. And it's like you can't roster build around that either. And it's
hmm
like at what point are you gonna either decide you want to take less money to give some team roster flexibility, or just decide that you're not really willing to try to go for championships. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different mentality, I think, that we're seeing kind of the fruits of that now. But yeah, certainly a lot to lose there. Any other names you've got off the bat?
Yeah, I had Harden. I think it's mainly just his playoff legacy is so
hmm
tainted right now, with the way he always plays in the playoffs. Is where like he just doesn't really show up for these teams, and and I thought maybe he'd be able to change that this year because this is probably one of the best teams he's probably had put together. I mean, other than his couple years with the Clippers when they had PG and Kawhi and then him, I guess. Well, actually,
No, he
he
wasn't.
got traded for Kawhi. I mean,
Yeah.
for PG, right? So with him and Kawhi, I thought maybe that roster was pretty good. But this is the best roster I think he's had outside of OKC, and he's just kind of being mediocre, just kind of
Yeah.
pretty passive, and I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was my first name on my list was I think he's got to overcome. I mean, this is the first round too. Like he's really got to go probably to the finals to really turn around his legacy or make it more positive. Because I mean, he's made it to the Western Finals with Houston, so he's been there before. But yeah, his performance just has not lived up to what it really needs to be. I mean, Mitchell hasn't played particularly well either in this series, but I think he's really got to be a factor for them to make a playoff push.
But Mitchell People have seen it time and time again with the Utah Jazz and then with the Clipper. I mean, with the Cavs. I think last year is like that guy just fights, and like
Yeah,
you want him on the team because
for
he's
sure.
going to put his head down and run through a wall. Where it's like I just don't see that kind of playoff effort from Harden. Maybe he's just a seasoned demon, and then all of a sudden get to the playoffs, and it's like you need to have something to make up for what he did in the regular season. But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few more that come to mind too, like Embiid and Paul George
I
are
had them
kind of
on
in
my
that.
questions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those are in the same vein for me of, you know, great season players, and then the playoffs come, and it's, Embiid's had some good moments, and PG has to some extent too, but kind of the lasting impact of a lot of early playoff exits, not making it as deep as they could. Not that they're expected to this year, but just time is kind of running out for these guys to where they don't have a lot to hang their hat on before they ride off into the sunset, and these are kind of their last opportunities that you have to overcome some of these teams that you shouldn't be beating. A la LeBron this year with the Rockets, like he shouldn't be beating the Rockets, but they are. So they need those type of performances from these guys that if they want to kind of be these legends or you know have a legacy in the game, like neither of them have championships, right? So they're going to need it just as bad as Harden does.
yeah. I had them on my questions because like I think Joel wants a championship real bad, but his injury history is just not. He's not going to be able to do it. And he had that one year where the Kawhi year where
Hmm.
the ball bounces, and I think they win the championship if that doesn't go in. But like unfortunately, it did, so you can't rewrite that. Um, Paul George, I mean, he was so good in Indiana, and then after that, it's like injury after injury. And I get that he had that super bad injury with USA, and that sucks. I mean, is he just at this point just like a higher level like Kelly Oubre, which I know is on this team, but like 17 points a game and 4 rebounds? Like what? I don't understand what you're even getting from him.
Yeah.
That's worth 40 million or whatever he's making, 50 million or whatever.
Yeah, he's definitely not performing like a player that's worth that. I think he's worth more than that. Like he definitely has the talent. It's just his body has failed him so many times. I mean, you got to think the PEDs are because I mean he's mentioned that too. Just it's frustrating to be an athlete that knows what I can do or have done, and I can't do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
so I think he talent wise, I'm trying to think of a good comparison of he's not the same scorer as Carmelo that never really won anything, but something like that to where he's gotten his teams to the point. Indiana was right there with the Heat. They took him,
Yeah.
deep in several series, and he's been on other quality teams that just haven't got the job done. So yes, you feel for him a little bit, but at the same time, the moment comes around where you have the opportunity, and the Sixers seem to be the place to go to if you're on the cusp but can't get it done. Go to the Sixers, and that'll get you to your next destination.
Yeah, yeah. I like the Sixers. I wish Joel would have been helped, but like we can't with him. You can't really like worry about that because he's not going to be healthy any point of his career.
Yeah,
But I like what they have going on, and I thought that maybe they'd be able to figure it out. But
definitely. I mean, and like you said, they've got some homegrown stars now. Like BJ's going
yeah,
to be a
oh yeah,
star eventually, and Maxi already is. And if Embiid stays healthy, if not, they'll move on. But they're all they need really is a solid third piece. That I don't think PG is that. But they draft somebody or they bring another star in. You're looking at a pretty decent team in the East. So they're
for
not
sure.
far off. It's just to be able to take down Boston, who I'd like to talk about Jaylen Brown for a second because
Yeah,
that was kind of one for me that I thought this would be the year that he defines himself as the guy, right? Obviously,
yeah.
no Tatum most of the year, came back a lot earlier than we thought, and it still feels like Tatum's team to me.
It
Like
is his
it's
team. He's
and it
awesome.
is, yeah, he's great, a great player, and rightfully so. To me, I thought if the Celtics are going to make a run to the finals, which I think we had them going to the finals, if not Eastern
Yeah,
Finals,
yeah. Finals.
he's got to be the guy that gets them there. And it's not that he hasn't shown up so far. It's just that it's not his team, and he's not the standout.
Well, some people. I mean, he did win the Finals MVP the year they won. So I
He
don't
did.
know.
He did. And there's an argument to be made about that too. But I
Yeah,
think, at least for me, I'm like, he's spent his whole career trying to distinguish himself from Tatum, whether they want to come out and say it or not. I feel like, at least as an outsider, not a Boston fan, and I'd be curious to hear a Boston fans' perspective because they probably would know a little bit more closely than me. But in my head, I'm thinking, if I'm Jaylen Brown, I'm kind of pissed that, not that Tatum came back because that gives them a better chance to win, but just like, hey, I want to be the guy, like I want to be like Kyrie and say, this is my team, and I
yeah.
got them there.
He did have a. I mean, Brown did have a great season, and he did keep them. I mean, he was their best player throughout the year, and like kept them afloat to the point where they could confidently. Because if Brown has a bad season this year, and then they end up losing a bunch of games or whatever,
Hmm.
like Tatum doesn't come back, and they're not in the spot they're in. But they were already like top. I think they may have been two when he came back.
Hmm.
So it's like Brown was a big reason, and like kind of I remember some buzz about like maybe MVP stuff, like he's having an MVP type season. But then as soon as Tatum came back, it's like I don't know, like does Brown not know how to play with him? It's like it doesn't seem like that would make any sense because they've won a championship
Hmm.
together and they've played so long. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I thought this could be like a really good like defining year for him, which I think it was regular season wise. It's just like
For sure, for sure. I
playoffs
should
is
have been
different.
more clear on that because, yeah, he definitely got them to where they are, and but yeah, it's more watching the playoffs now. I'm really curious. I do think they'll beat Philly and move on, and
Me too.
I want to see how he continues to progress in this postseason because I think that will help define his legacy. Is, obviously having the Finals MVP is a great start, and to take the next step into that stardom, because I don't know if him and Tatum are going to play their whole careers together. Who
Nah,
knows what they're going to do moving forward.
I imagine that he'll decide one day that he wants to try to be his number one.
Right.
Who was that with? Who knows? Maybe he seems like a good culture fit for like a Miami.
Hmm.
So maybe that, but who knows what will present itself at a different time. I had a duo on here, but we talked about them already. We can kind of touch the Cade Duran combo.
Hmm.
I wonder if they lose this game, they're up right now 65-53. But um, if they lose in the first round, like does Detroit go like a year or two, and then they're like, maybe this combo is not going to work out, and then they try to move one or the other. Well, not Cade, but like they try to move Duran, and so it's like, anyway,
I've already heard rumors of trying to move Duran. Um,
really.
Not from a negative Pistons perspective, but more from a positive Lakers or someone else perspective
Oh, they want him
of
real
like,
bad.
yeah, like teams would covet a big man like him. Not, I don't necessarily think he's going to be a top 5, top 10 player in the league type guy, but he can be a solid. Obviously, we've seen this year he's definitely a quality starting center and potentially a top 10 to 15 player. But
For sure.
I don't know if, yeah, this series may not be enough evidence to define like, oh, they can't make it work. Like we've seen in the regular season, they can. I think it would probably, let's try some other pieces first. Like we've got to get more shooting in. We need, some better defenders. We don't need Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson, and Tobias is getting old, and Asar's a good defender, but he can't shoot. Like we got to have other pieces to really see if Duran and Cade can go the distance. But I'd say that's probably 2, 3 years out before they get to that point.
For sure. For sure. But a lot of good conversation, a lot of good debate about people's legacies and stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Um, but please, as always, like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think. Who you think is his legacy is being tainted by this year, or maybe it's looking positive. Um, and also let us know what you think about the tanking stuff and anything we talked about today. We always love to hear what y'all have to say, and we're likely to comment back as soon as
Yeah, very
possible.
likely. We'll get that notification and be right back on it. So,
I'm in, man. I'm in.
yeah, creeping up there. We got 36 subs now,
Yeah, yeah. We're
on
getting
our
like,
way up.
I think the past couple videos have gotten 50 viewers each. So yeah, I like that. It's a good
We'll take
milestone.
it.
A little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, so please keep following us, share us. If you think somebody would enjoy listening to us, please just pass it along. We'll take anything we can get.
absolutely. Or if you want to come on the show, we'll even have
Yeah,
you on the
yeah.
show.
Hey, man, we're always up for a debate.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, that was great, and y'all have a nice week.